Welcome back to the Single Malt Review, and welcome to what is very likely the new year, because we're in the old year, but the rate at which I produce videos, it's chances are high that it is in fact 2019. So Happy New Year! We'll probably do a New Year's episode, which will itself come out way too late, just like the Halloween one, which you might not have even seen. Anyway, enough about my production inadequacies. Dave has he's delved once again into the aeroplane selection, the hotel cabinet, the mini fridge.
Yes.
What have you returned with?
We have is Jim Beam's offering is Jacob's Ghost White Whiskey. What it means essentially is a very young Jim Beam, which has been matured for maybe a year, and then filtered to produce this almost crystal clear whiskey. The entire point being, I think, just to release what is not quite a new make spirit, it's something a little older than that, but just get those barrels emptied sooner. It is whiskey, it is not bourbon. If it had been left in the barrels for even a year, it would have become bourbon. Mm-hmm. But no, as it is, it is
young bourbon.
40%, 80 proof, American white whiskey.
I should, if I crack up halfway through, which I'm barely preventing, is because Dave did a brilliant outro last time, or intro last time, which we have probably cut, where he introduced this as Jim Beam White Ghost, and was about to say Jacob's Whiskey, I'm certain, before he caught it, and it's destroying my mind just going over it, so apologies for that.
Jacob Beam being one of the old founders, we assume, of Jim Beam's distillery, at least an old stalwart of the brand.
So, going by the bottle, and by the sparsity, paucity, scant quantity of information we could find on the internet about how this is actually made, the mash bill is identical to normal bourbon. It is Jim Beam as far as it is put together. It then goes into and the bottle stipulates a new oak barrel, so bourbon thus far.
Always new oak.
It just comes out of it a wee bit early after 1 year, and judging by the colour, it is then filtered because even after 1 year, you'd expect something way darker. I mean, spirits going into new oak, they'll take on the majority of their colour in that first year, really. They'll take it on very fast. So the idea that
they do say it is clear distilled on the label. Yeah. Not particularly revelatory, but clear filtered.
Yeah. I think we're dealing with a little bit of the Gentleman Jack situation, where this has been filtered as it leaves the barrel before
it's
bottling.
Got to be, because I mean, hell, tequila añejo. 1 year old tequila is a darker than gold.
This. So,
so it's basically we're getting not a pure new make spirit, something's been slightly matured, just enough to really take a bit of the edge off and impart a limited amount of flavour, sort of like some old, very old school.
It'll be something a wee bit weird, I think, based on what we normally taste.
I mean, I do like, in rare instances, very young spirits. Tequila Blanco is my favourite tequila. I like it.
Yeah, mine too. I think if you're going to shell out for tequila, you may as well get all the tequila in the tequila. 6 months of wood, that whatever.
6 weeks even sometimes for a young tequila.
So anyway, derisive tequila opinions aside, what are we getting here?
It is a very lightweight nose. I was expecting more fire, more roughness, a bit of harshness for being a young spirit.
It's not devoid of harshness.
No,
I mean, there's a bit of glue gun in there.
It's faintly perfumey, a little bit industrial. But it's not much. There's no tingle. There's no assault on the senses.
I was expecting to taste a lot of vanilla and a lot of coconut, because they normally are difficult to filter out, whereas the colour and sort of oaky and tannin things are easier to filter out. But there isn't a tremendous amount there. This is actually closer to like a vodka-y smelling thing than I was anticipating. So there's some sort of model glue in here. There's a bit of acetone. It is way more spirity, as the name I suppose might allude to, than anything else. It is definitely a clear spirit, and it noses like one too. So we'll see what it drinks like.
Okay, I'll say up front, I'm not a fan.
It's pretty rough, isn't it?
Yeah, that is an acrid, acidic, slightly corrosive tasting.
That's a real
jumble.
That really takes a saw to the palate.
Yeah. If it had been a straight up new make spirit, it would have been basically Jim Beam vodka, I guess. The fact it's had a little bit of aging has...
No. Give it a bit of a recirculation now. There's a little bit of salvation right at the end. There's a little bit of buttery caramel right at the end. Once all the fire's died away, and you've got to work for it. You've got to really when we say recirculate, that's when you occlude your mouth but leave it open, and then breathe very, very gently out your nose, and you will taste the vapours as they evaporate in your mouth, and you'll get some things that you don't get any other way.
The finish is a bit like the leading edge of a sip of bourbon. You get the merest hint of those fully developed American whiskey flavors.
Right at the end, there's like
if
I had to call it one thing, there's like there's a Werther's Original. If those are current across the world, I'm sure they're not unique to New Zealand. Yeah, there's a Werther's Original coming through right on the end, but it's very faint, and it's the very, very last thing that comes. But it's actually quite a long. Like, I'm still getting it.
I'm struggling to reach it. I'm getting a little bit of sort of coconut rum flavours, like sort of novelty flavoured spirits.
I'm going to try something. Keep them talking.
Sure. No, This is a slight confront to the expectations. I was thinking of something which would be somewhere between a new make spirit and bourbon. Instead, we've got hints of both, but something completely different, and really quite bizarre. It's fiery, it's fierce, it's full of juxtapositions. Flavours don't quite merge well together. And Tim is back, so I'll let him take over with...
I think this might give the ghost some exorcise.
Icing it up. Oh, okay, that could actually help, yeah.
I think this might be the key ingredient in this particular...
Quite possibly.
This particular offering.
Chill it way the heck down.
So we're not going to expect that to do anything to the nose.
No, let's give that time.
But we've got a wee swish there. And that, despite tasting even more like new make spirit, is actually a wee bit better.
That has clarified the flavour a lot, actually. Yeah, that has honed it in onto a particular sweet and freshly woody note. That's taken away a lot of that chaotic jumble of acrid elemental properties and honed it in on that, like more of a clear thread of flavour.
It's better, but I would be hesitant to call it good.
Yeah,
I still don't know what this is for.
Yeah, I mean, it's not clear why this exists. It's not as good as your regular Jim Beam. It's not particularly amazing on its own. I guess if you want a snapshot of a particular stage of bourbon production, but then again, this is being filtered.
You're not even
here,
getting that. It's not. It neither represents new make bourbon. It doesn't even represent 1-year-old bourbon because it's been some of that flavour and certainly the colour has been filtered out. It represents something that's actually quite artificial. It's something that would never exist in the natural world. It's a little bit baffling as to why they made it. And as for mixing, which this is heavily implied is what this is for, I don't actually know what I'd mix it with.
Possibly substitute it for gin and any gin-based
thing. Certainly wouldn't do that.
No?
It's not bourbony enough for me to want to use it in a bourbon drink. It's certainly not gin because it's just not gin.
No, it's not gin, but I was imagining maybe having a sort of tonic in a long drink or something like that.
Maybe. I don't know. If I'm having gin, I'm going to have gin.
For sure.
But this, I think what I'd do with this is use it as I would a very light rum. I think that's where it might be applicable. You know, getting some sort of a tiki drink on, getting a daiquiri going. I think that's probably its best application, but it would in none of these scenarios be my first choice. It's just, it's not absolutely baffling because Jim Beam has done more baffling things in the past, and they're going to get theirs this year. Don't worry, I've got some plans for them. Jim Beam, I'm coming for you. But yeah, it's, in one word, superfluous.
It is unnecessary. Yeah.
It's like it's a whiskey for nobody. I'd really, or maybe I wouldn't, like to meet the person that buys this twice. It's one of those. It's an experience, but not a particularly relevant or worthwhile one. I will score it because it's under a big bourbon.
It's an American whiskey. It's a big release from a big company.
It went there, and it's 54. That's all it does for me. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, maybe go up to possibly 59 for this one. It's a... it is worlds apart from Jim Beam's even entry-level core range bourbon. So obviously it's not bourbon, but it's taken away most of what's good about that, leaving just a fairly rough, upfront spirit, which does become quite nice with the addition of ice. At least it becomes quite distinctive, it becomes singular and identifiable that way. Not recommended though, and not really something anyone needs to try.
Yeah,
this was an impulse buy because it was available, and I was honestly curious.
Honestly say, I mean, we're in the business of recommending things, but it doesn't mean we're above unrecommending things, and I'd honestly say this is one to avoid. You know,
it may well be perhaps a bit of a time capsule on what American whiskey may have been like in the distant past, when you had companies producing a less refined, less matured spirit, and just laying it out on the market quicker as people wanted a quick hit of quick brews. But aside from that, aside from possible historical value, why bother?
Yeah, I don't know. Bit of a mystery, but there you go. We took that one to the box so that you don't have to. That's
Jacob's Ghost. Exercise yours today. Part
of our job here at the Single Malt Review. Never mind, we might be back with something a bit better next time. One can only hope. We catch us then. Stay safe, Slanger, as always, and we will be right back. And he's come back with, what have you got?
It is Jim Beam White Ghost. Sorry, oh guys, can we start again? I got it totally wrong.
Well, he was white.
Oh god. It is Jacob's Ghost White Whiskey.
White Ghost Jacob's Whiskey. That would have worked. No. Alright, here we go.